Okay, after action report for the 24th of November 2023. This was a four-ship operation at the very start. It was one destroyer, one battleship, and two gunboats. The gunboats were under the command of Dennis from KOP. The battleship was under command of Roxu from 3rd Marines, and the destroyer was under my command and 4th Naval Division. Overall operational commander was me. And I just get over here. Originally, it was supposed to be Roxu who commanded the operation. He had the original plans and ideas for what our little sortie here was supposed to be, but he, at the time just before the operation started, he said that he couldn't make it, but then afterwards he could make it. So in that time of switching when he could and couldn't, it basically handed off to me to lead the operation from the destroyer. So I kind of generally knew what he wanted to do, so I just modified the plan a little bit, and basically the Wardens just presented us with a lot of initial targets to hit, so we got lucky in the beginning there. Okay, I've covered that. Yeah, okay, so what happened here was that the battleship took like an hour and a half to get ready after the H-hour start, and the gunboats were already forward deployed in Endless Shore, or somewhere whereabouts there. They were off somewhere else already in action. So I wasn't going to make the same mistake as I did in the very big amphibious assault on Exit. And in this case, we had the ability to do something about it because we're on a destroyer. If we were still in gunboats, we would be in a lot of problems. It would have been very difficult to try and have the kind of success that we pulled off in the first battle. But we were in a destroyer. We were already on station. The Wardens were all over the place in fingers trying to invade, and they just gave us a ton of targets. So we went ahead and we had a 1 hour engagement. About halfway through of which the gunboats managed to join us, so we got a lot of combined operations there. And we basically cleared out the fingers of all of the Warden's main naval assets. There's a lot of sticky barges and gunboats. The gunboats were the main asset that they had there. They had like about 5 or so, and we pretty much wiped them all out. Plus a submarine, which we found later on, which we didn't successfully sink, but we managed to put them down and kept them under for quite a long time. Got a lot of good hits in, and they weren't able to do anything really. So we neutralized the submarine basically. We didn't kill him, but we did wipe out all the gunboats. And yeah, that was probably the first initial good decision that I made here. We didn't wait for anybody. We just went in and did something, partly because the destroyer allowed us to do that. So that was pretty good. That went on pretty well. Okay, so I jumped up a little bit, so let me backtrack here and get all of the background context out of the way. So prior to the operation, we could not get the battleship repaired in time. Well, actually, we did get it repaired in time, but it was supposed to have been repaired the day before, because KSI had taken it out 3 days prior, and Roxo had been asking them to repair it because it had been damaged. But nobody was able to get online to repair it. I don't know exactly what was going on because, as I said, Roxu couldn't actually make it. Well, at least he said he couldn't make it at this time. And I don't know, his second in command, Maverick, I've never really met or talked to before. This was the first time that I had to interact with him. There was nobody else in the coalition that was going to repair the battleship, so I and 2 of my officers, we logged on earlier that day and then tried to get the battleship repaired, which we did. It was a very long and tedious ordeal to get the battleship into the dry dock from Terminus, and also get the shell plating to the dry dock to fill it up to make the repairs. But we did it. We did it, and we did it just in time. We actually got the repairs all underway, and it was finished just a few minutes before the H-hour, which wasn't enough time because the battleship still needed to be stocked up with the ammunition and whatnot, which it wasn't. So there was that. On our side, though, the destroyer was already pretty much fully loaded. I just switched out some of the ammunition for more 120s and restocked it with the BMATs, all this and that. But yeah, the staging for the destroyer went pretty much flawlessly. It only took like 10 minutes or so. So yeah, we went off to Fingers, got into a lot of big fights there, and that is where the operation begins. Okay, so here is the first battle here against the gunboats. Let me turn the volume down a little bit. So this was a situation as it was. they had already invaded the Tusk several hours earlier, and they were trying to attack Captain's Dread and this island here, which I don't think has a name. But as we see here, they had a line of gunboats up north here, around this area. I was able to see 4, but I wasn't unsure if there were any more. So we had come up from this river here from Headsman Villa, and we had seen on the watchtower where there were multiple gunboats being operated. They had put up a blockade of barges along here, which wasn't that effective. I mean, we just rolled up with the 120s, and it was no problem to blow through a hole through that. So that I don't know what they were trying to do there, but okay, fine. But the gunboat swarm that they managed to gather here, that was a little dangerous. Now, granted, there were only 4, but for those part of this coalition know what happened 2 weeks ago on Tuesday. Yeah, if 5 gunboats is more than enough to knock out a destroyer, especially if they get caught off guard and caught out in the open alone. And in this situation here, this gunboat that's over here, that's not the KOP fellas. They are still yet to arrive on the scene at this point in the engagement. So I'm not gonna go and engage 4 gunboats that are already pointing in my direction here. If you can, I'm gonna post all of the combat footage. So if you want to watch it through, you can do so there. But I'm just gonna try and go through this as briefly as I possibly can, not just go scene by scene, because there's the big battleship battle that I have to do the analysis scene by scene. So in this case here, all 4 gunboats are lined up here right north, and they're pointing directly at us. They can see us, we can see them. Obviously, they're coordinated because they're all lined up looking right at us. So what I do here is that instead of trying to go up this channel, which, as I said, I don't know if that's all of the gunboats there, and they already have a sizable amount that could very well destroy us at this point. And this channel is very very narrow, especially for a destroyer to try and maneuver. They could easily have things hiding around on the other sides here, ready to pounce us. There are many barges that were being operated with lots of infantry around here. So sticky barge, I mean, I'm not entirely sure how much damage the sticky nades can do to the hull of the destroyer, but I didn't want to find out here. So plan here was simple, was just maneuver. I mean, this was the bad position. We'll just change the position. So I took us around a long way around and maneuvered around the hex. Once we had withdrew, so I basically ordered the ship all go all the way back, make us look like we were heading back to Headsman, and then we went east and then tried to get around. Once they saw that, they tried to pursue us, but they lost visual contact, and then they started maneuvering around to the west. So they lost us basically, and then they started maneuvering east to attack Captain's Dread. And it was in this maneuver that where they lost contact and couldn't find us, I think they probably assumed that we ran away, but we hadn't. We had gone around a long way around, and since we had plenty of good observation tower coverage, I could see where they were headed, and also watchtower map coverage indicated that there were shelling going on here. So we managed to get in behind them, and that's where the only part of the action this here battle occurred. So yeah, we catch them off guard basically. We catch them from behind. They were completely clueless until we were right on top of them, and that was the end of it. We had the element of surprise, all that. More than enough firepower. They couldn't do anything. They were dead. So yeah, I'm not gonna go through the video for this clip. We'll continue on to the second one. Okay, so it's around this point, the gunboats had already linked up with us. So I've got 2 gunboats with me, and I'll just cover what Dennis from KOP sent me for his after-action report. So he was very happy with the comms. This was the first time that we were using the system that we had implemented in our very first amphibious invasion almost 2 weeks ago. So just to reiterate what the comm system is, from our side here, from 4th Naval, we have on the destroyer 2 separate Discord channels. So we have the bridge crew, which is all the main important roles like the sonar, helmsman, engineering, the gunners as well. They're all in one Discord. And there's another Discord channel for the below deck crew. And the guy in charge of that is the damage control officer. And the communication system we have is that I have a TeamSpeak channel with the damage control officer. There's also multiple TeamSpeak channels. Actually, there was only one more, but we're going to expand that a little bit moving forward. There was one more TeamSpeak channel between the helmsman and the blueprint guy, because I don't need to be the guy micromanaging the blueprint, because I just give orders to the helm to take us where and when and how. Well, the how is up to him basically, but I tell him the kind of like way that I would like it to go, and then he just goes and does it. So I don't need to talk to the blueprint guy. The helmsman is the one in command of the blueprint guy, and we don't need them clogging up the comm channel on the bridge. So we had that going. Now the damage control officer is the guy that has full authority of everything that goes on below deck, and he has the power to make the call to say that we need to disengage. If things are going too bad, he just needs to tell me that we need to run, and then that's it. I don't need to be running around the ship checking over the shoulders of my guys. If somebody says that something needs to be done, we go do it. You can't do this with every destroyer crew, obviously. In this case, we're a very experienced crew. Granted, we've only been running gunboats for the most of the part of the time of this war, but we've done it very well so far. And it wasn't too hard for everyone to adapt to the destroyer. I mean, we did training sessions on the destroyer even prior to this operation, and there were quite a few of us that were involved in the dev branch. We got a lot of destroyer experience there, especially me. So I was able to pass on experience and knowledge. Not all of it, but most of it. So yeah, the damage control officer, he has control of the loaders, the repairmen, yeah, anybody that's below deck, even the machine gunners on the top deck, because they're not too important. They're under his command as well, so he can always direct and pull guys to manage any damage that goes on. And we multi-role, so if there's no damage, the repairmen act as the secondary loaders. So we have 2 loaders for each of the 120s. So that's the way the comm system there works. And for the fleet communication, we use Gilded. So I'm on the Gilded channel with the battleship that's still getting ready at this point, and Dennis, who is the commander of the 2 other gunboats. So this, from my perspective as the operational commander, I've got 3 comm channels. I've got the Discord channel for the bridge to manage the destroyer actions. I've got the TeamSpeak channel to the damage control officer, who is running the other half of the ship. And I've got the Gilded channel to the rest of the fleet to maneuver that. And yeah, fleet communication-wise, pretty much worked out very well. I was able to maneuver the gunboats in and around places, especially at this point here where we were hunting the submarine. We were having trouble with our sonar, so having visual scouts just go around the hex to have a look around and then report back to us, that was great, because we actually found the submarine that way. We were able to cast a lot of reconnaissance all across the northern part of the hex here, and we got that done very well. So KOP's after action report, they were quite happy with the command and control, with the comms. I was very happy with the way they were screening us. That was very good performance there, especially after some of the previous operations we ran with gunboats. they knew how to do it properly. The last part of Dennis's report I'll come back to when we get to the Godscroft battle, because that's a point that he wanted to raise. But overall, up to this point, that's how things have been going on for the gunboat screens for our little fleet here. Okay, so let me continue. So we're here at the sub fight. We were having a lot of problems with the sonar to keep track of the submarine. And as I've said, we just switched back to visual scouting and we managed to find it. Now we got a lot of good hits on the submarine, depth charge wise. And I think the gunboats managed to get like a couple of hits in before they submerged. So that's what happened here. At the end of this clip that I've posted on, we're kind of convinced. We sound kind of convinced that we sunk the submarine, but that's not what happened. We didn't sink the submarine. It popped up later, about an hour, well, more like half an hour after we had left on one of the watchtowers. I'm pretty sure we did a lot of damage. It probably just ran away or crossed the border and then came back. But as I said, we kind of neutralized it. They weren't able to do anything really. I mean, there's no logic here to attack. And they didn't attack us. So yeah, that's what happened there. We definitely need to work on our anti-submarine warfare tactics. That's definitely something we are weak in, but we're improving. And we actually did end up help killing a submarine later on in the operation. We engaged a total of 3 submarines, of which only 1 actually managed to get any effective torpedoes off on our friendly battleship. But yeah, that's where that is. We're working on the comms for sonar to get the information relayed to me and the depth charge people. I think we've got that figured out for the most part. We just need to get practice in on that. So yeah, okay. I think I've covered all of the minor details and all of the stuff regarding the skirmishes here. So now we can get to the big stuff, which everybody wants me to talk about, which is the battleship fight. Because that one, oh god. Okay. All right, so here is the cut footage from for the battle in Godscroft. I think it lasted like 20 minutes or so. I'm not gonna. Actually, I think I might have to, because this. Okay, so I'll just play the clip here. So we had already crossed from Tempest. What had happened was that we had found Warden large ship contacts on radar, on Watchtower, in Tempest Islands. Now, what had happened, and 2 hours prior to this, was that there was a massive amphibious assault in the shore. And for what I've been able to gather is that our allied forces have managed to destroy most of the fleet. I think they sank the Bluefin, the Longhook, and a battleship. I actually just saw the footage of a battleship being sunk here at Morgan's on this very day. I don't think it was the one that we fought here. I'm pretty sure it was the one that had fought previously at the Naval Invasion. But that's besides the point. At this point in time, we had seen a large ship contact here, multiple large ship contacts, at least 2. Roxo was under the impression that it was their logistic ships, but that wasn't the case. They were submarines basically here. And I wasn't really expecting there to be a battleship. However, I did specifically say that everybody in the operation, before we even started, it was several hours before the operation even started, that if we could isolate enemy battleship, our 1 destroyer and 1 battleship should have no problem in a 2-on-1 engagement with that. If we could find an isolated battleship, we were going to go for it. So that is the kind of like standing orders that were going on for this operation. If we could find a battleship to fight that was all alone, we were going to go for it. And this is basically what happens here. There's a battleship that comes into Godscroft and is right in the middle here, maneuvering, and maneuvers in east here to us, and that's where we start the battle here. Now, at this point, we know that there's 2 gunboats operating in Godscroft. There was one that I spotted here at Exile. You can still see the Echo here. And there's one more that I'm chasing right now that's off to the east that's heading away. As far as I know, these 2 didn't really play much of a role. Actually, I think our friendly gunboat screens actually synced them or engaged them somewhere along those lines. So that's what happened there. But yes, this is the situation. This is how we've got here. Roxu is currently here. Oh, actually here. Okay, so this is the first big problem here that goes on. I am unable to relay or understand where all of the rest of the fleet is. In 4th Naval, the way we operate the gunboats is that we always try to get a watchman, which is basically the 6th member of the gunboat crew, which has a radio backpack, and he stands behind the captain on the bridge area on the gunboat. And the purpose of having the radio backpack guy is not to scout out for intelligence on the enemy, instead to relay friendly intelligence. And this is a kind of tactic that I've used before in previous regiments when conducting forward reconnaissance for land operations. The whole point of having the radio backpack guy is to just relay information of like where our friendly forces are when we're maneuvering multiple units around, especially over a large area, over a hex or so. So in this case here, however, we don't have that on KOP. I don't think that's how they operate. Or if that is how they operate, they must have been a little bit low on manpower, in which case I'm happy that they brought 2 gunboats instead of just 1 gunboat with an extra man. It played out all right. Nothing wrong there. But the problem here is that Roxu, I think, forgot to bring a radio, because from the point that we had been starting the fight at Fingers all the way through to Godscroft here, he was unable to find where my ship is. And the destroyer is a mobile watchtower. You can pretty much see its position on the map at all times. Same goes for the gunboat commander. Although the gunboat commander, I'm pretty sure he figures it out. Or maybe, I think the more likely scenario is that the map legend icon, they probably accidentally turned it off. Because up until this point, the gunboats didn't know where we were. They couldn't see us. after this point, when in middle of this clip that I'm about to play, they then were able to identify where we were most of the time. But Roxu wasn't able to find us. I don't know why, but that was pretty big disadvantage on our side here. The inability to really coordinate well if we didn't know where everybody was, and we had to use the grid coordinates. Which is another thing with Dennis and KOP. I don't think they know that we have the grid codes, because I was trying to give them grid codes and trying to ask them for the grid codes, but they didn't quite understand. But that's just a minor detail, because at that point we just fall back on the landmarks on the map here. So there's that. That's what happened there. So yes, I've covered the lack of, well, the degradation in command and control, slight comm problem. Okay, we'll continue here. So, okay, right here is when the battleship pops up. And I was scanning for the gunboats and looking around. We had got a submarine visual contact south, so that's where we're heading for. And the battleship pops up here. So we take a couple of hits. We dish out a couple of hits here. But just finding the battleship alone, that was the most important. I mean, we're the destroyer, so at this point in time, our job is to direct our friendly battleship to this battleship and assist in engaging it. And as far as I'm concerned, one submarine and a couple of gunboats is not really, as far as I'm concerned, like a very large fleet for the Wardens here, especially to screen a battleship. In my mind here, the standing order, which we discussed earlier, is still in effect. We have an isolated battleship. We have one destroyer, one battleship. That we have the 2-on-1 mismatch. We're gonna go for it. So yes, okay, here we take the couple of hits in the pass by, then we exchange shots over there. And here we are regrouping with the battleship off here to the southwest of Lipsia. So it's at this point that we make this is the most critical decision that was made here. Roxo asked, do we want to engage? And I say yes. However, there is one piece of information here that if I had known, I would have said, no, we're getting the hell out of here. And that is, and you can correlate with the footage, which I will also post again. Actually, I'm going to review the footage as well from the 3rd Marines perspective on the battleship. It's from the perspective of one of the gunners/loaders. So you can see what happens there, and you can hear the comms that were going off on their end there. But basically, the one piece of information here that is very crucial is that the battleship at this point in time only has about 500 BMETs left. That is the truth, because I got the timestamp actually in one of the slides here. You can have a look. There's only 500 BMS left in the inventory of the battleship. I do not know why they forgot. I mean, this is how it is, I suppose. I think they underestimated, because this is, as far as I know, the first time that they're actually taking the battleship out in like real live combat on a live server. You can't count the dev bench for numerous reasons. But yeah, they're at 500 BMS at this point. And as far as I know, actually, the way it sounds to me, from trying to piece together the information that I've gathered from the video and how Roxu commanded and acted here on forward, is that they didn't know they only had 500 BMS either. It was only around about halfway through the battle, just before this main engagement occurs, that I think the information finally gets relayed to Roxu that they're almost out of BMETs, and then they make the decision to disengage. But we'll get back to that yet. But if I had known that the battleship only has 500 BMETs, then I would have said, we're getting the hell out of here. There's no point in trying to take this fight here. But I didn't know that. That's not what happened there. As far as I'm concerned, at this point in time, me in the past, if you're looking at this video here, I've got a fully loaded battleship ready to go. We've got plenty of crewmen. Granted, on their ship, they have a lot of randoms. But it was the same on my destroyer as well. I guess I got lucky because the damage control officer, my side glitch, I mean, it's the first time he was doing it, but he did an absolutely brilliant job. He managed to manage not only our guys that we had organized pre-op, but all the randoms that came in after the whilst the operation was underway. And I mean, he got everything working completely fine, like as good as it possibly could have been. So, but looking at the footage from the 3rd Marines, that was not the case on their side. There, it was very more chaotic. But I'm getting a little bit off track here. So yes, so this decision here to engage, this was a mistake. If I had known there were only 500 mets, definitely would not have taken the fight. We would have gone home at this point. But I didn't know that, so we're going into the fight. So that's where the first big decision was made. Now there's 2 more critical points in this battle that occurs that I'm going to cover. And yeah, okay. We don't need to watch this part. This is where we're turning around. So at this point here, as we are trying to turn around, we get jumped by a submarine from the south of Lipsia, and I think they get 2 torpedoes off, and I think one of them hits the battleship. Now there's 2 submarines that are going to show up. It's going to be this one here that we find here that comes in and attack us, and there's another one that's next to the battleship. Now I'm completely confident that we can still win the fight here, because submarines in a tactical engagement like this against a destroyer as well, since we're here, and 2 gunboats, it's still an uphill battle for them. It's a really weak weapon, to be honest. So I'm still saying we take this engagement. We fight them all, and it goes really well. We get a lot of good hits on this submarine here, and we actually sink the second submarine that shows up. The gunboat, I'm pretty sure, gets the last shot on and confirms the second submarine. But this submarine here that's attacking us now, that's coming in down, they run away, and we don't see them again until later on when the battleship is backed off against the border. But yeah, that's the decision here that was being made. So we're turning around, we're coming alongside, and basically I say to everybody that forget the submarines, because what happens is that the sub passes under us and then starts fleeing away. So he's no longer a threat. We don't need to deal with him. They take a long time to turn around, and it's very hard for them to get accurate torpedo shots off, especially against moving targets. So once we get good hits on them and they're retreating, they're damaged, I just say forget them. They're not a threat anymore. Just go find a battleship and we'll go kill him. Which is what happens here. So here was the second submarine that we found. Got a ton of good hits on that. Okay, so now we're all in position. And this is where the main fight begins, right? So the battleship we haven't quite detected yet, but it's off to the southwest, which is to the top left of this screen here. I'm going to stop playing the clip from this end at this point forward, and then I will pause at points where I need to give the analysis and commentate what is going on in my head and what was going on in the rest of the battlefield now that I know after talking to Roxu and Dennis. But the battleship is off to the top left here. We're all grouped up and concentrated. I mean, this is as good as the fight as it's going to be. We're all concentrated. We have a numerical mismatch against the enemy who is isolated. We're going to go for it. So let me continue here.
No visual. Is he down?
It might be
Not sure.
down.
Contact to left.
Contact
battleship.
Big
All ahead. Helm, make a course bearing 230. I've got a contact battleship bearing 222, range 130. All gunners target bearing 217, range 130, stand by and engage. So we're already maneuvering here. I mean, I don't need to always double check over what the helmsman do. I tell him what to do, he just does it. And we haven't had too many hiccups on that part. There was a couple more that happened earlier, but we're in the cadence and rhythm of things right now. So what happens here is that I call out to my crew, and then I call out to the fleet. So that's why there was 2 messages there for those who are a little bit confused. I have to communicate with everybody at this point because I'm the operational commander, right? Ideally, I shouldn't be in command of the destroyer. I should be sitting back in the bunker somewhere in the back lines, and there's drawing lines on the map for where everybody should go and what they should do. But this is how it played out here with this operation here. So we're going for it right here. And what happens is that Roxu calls out that he can't maneuver. Now, I've gone and watched over the footage from his side there. And granted, like I said, it wasn't from his angle. It was from one of the gunners and loaders. So you don't have the full picture and you can't hear all the comms that are going off. Because I assume they have their own command channel that we can't hear on their recording. But from the way it looks like to me is that an enemy iron ship with a partisan came across to the side of their ship and boarded them. And I'm pretty sure it was that iron ship that got caught on the battleship model, and this is a bug that a lot of us know and seen many times before. It basically locks the ship in place, right? So Voxu calls out here that his engine is damaged. And as far as I know, I don't think the engines on the large ship can be damaged. I may be wrong in that respect, but I can confirm as the video plays off on their end that they are fine in maneuvering forward, backwards, you name it. It didn't seem like there was any real damage going on there. But he is slow to react because one, he didn't hear my call out for the battleship where it was. And as I've said before, I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a radio equipped because, as you can see, the first time that I saw it was on the watchtower coverage on the map. So that right there was a big misplay going on here. But I'm not going to wait because he's almost right on top of us. I mean, you can see that he already has his guns pointed at the battleship. We're engaged as far as I'm concerned. I need to get stuck in and start doing some serious damage to them. And as I said, we're on a 2-on-1 situation here. We're all concentrated. I then make the call to say that follow me in to attack because this is our one opportunity. He's all isolated. We have him kind of backed up in the corner. He's going to back himself up in the corner, actually. So he has no room to maneuver. We have him pinned down, basically. So in my mind, the way that we're running this play, and everyone in 4th Naval, well, not everyone, but most of the people in 4th Naval have seen this play out. We have a 2-on-1 advantage. All we need to do is just get right up, stuck into his face, try to split the guys up. Either one ship follows directly behind the other, or you flank around the other side, which would have been the better play to do here, because the way that the Wardens react to us, there's a very big opportunity to flank around on the side and get easily 2 salvos off before they could return fire. But I'll run the clip here a little bit longer and then explain as it goes. But basically, I'm turning in here. I tell Voxer to follow me. We have a 2-on-1. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, this is golden opportunity right here. We can definitely kill this guy.
2-on-7.
Still better, all hit flank.
Repeat enemy battleship position. Alright, I see.
2-1-0. Come on, engage with me. Come on, follow me in.
Our engine is
I
damaged.
think
we are heavily
right now.
damaged.
Battleship 200.
Damage controls, Captain.
Left rudder, make your
190.
course bearing 208.
I have 3 signatures towards the west. Strength 1.
On the northeast submarine, submarine.
If there's a distance on it, go tell me.
No distance.
Damage code report.
My distance is really short.
Section 1 flooding, Section 2 flooding. Right, loaders, 2.
Helm, hard right rudder. Disengage, disengage. Hard right rudder. Okay, so if our friendly battleship was right with us here, following us in, I probably would have stayed a little bit longer. Now, there's a lot of people here that are going to say that the statement that I'm about to say here, they probably won't believe, but basically, I had no fear whatsoever about us getting out of here alive. I mean, anybody else looking at this situation, and a lot of people, they commented as we were disengaging that we're probably going to die here. That is definitely not the case, gentlemen, because I've been in a very similar situation on the death bench. Actually, on the death bench, we took a destroyer up against 2 Warden battleships, and we brawled with them just like this. So I had complete confidence in not only the ship in sustaining the amount of punishment we're taking here, but also complete confidence in the crew to make sure not to fuck this shit up, alright? Because this could have gone sideways really fast. If you had an inexperienced crew running this thing, for all we know, the helmsman could have lost his nerve or not understand the situation, be confused, might have just ran us right into the battleship. And no, he didn't, because I know who this guy is. He's been with me quite a long time now. He was going to hold his course no matter what the hell happened until I told him otherwise. And he did. We were in a textbook position to get broadside on this battleship. We're taking the hits, but this is, as far as I'm concerned, what we need to do. If we take the hits here, right, and we deal as much damage as we can, which we do, we get a ton of shots off. Rate of fire on this thing, on our crew here, was really good, especially after watching some of the footage from some of the other battleships that have been operating, especially 3rd Marines in the final engagement here. We get a very good rate of fire off our guns here. So we're dealing a ton of damage to them. We're receiving a ton of damage. But this is where the tactics come into play. So long as this guy is firing at us and he has all his attention pointed towards us and we're dealing tons of damage, he's just going to be focused on us. This gives the golden opportunity for our friendly battleship to go in and finish the job. because right now, with the amount of damage they've sustained, this is an easy kill. Now, the problem here, as I've said before, Roxu can't maneuver, or at least he takes a really long time to start maneuvering. So I have to disengage first here. There's no point in me staying in this fight for this amount of time for this long. We're just going to die. So that's why I make the decision here to pull off. And this is all calculated. It's all instincts for the most part, but it is calculated. It's the amount of damage that I was willing to take in return for the amount of damage we were going to deal out and set up the play for the battleship to get the final kill. So we're bailing out of here. As I said, experienced crew, complete confidence. The blueprint guy, for all we know, he could have misclicked and put the blueprint right in front, which would have stopped us right in the middle and got us all killed. But no, because I know who the blueprint guy is. I put him there myself. So we get the maximum turn out of this disengagement. Everyone stays on course, on target. And as the clip plays out here, you can see the experience going on with the crew here. Everyone just immediately jumps on damage control. I don't need to say a damn thing. And it just works out really fine. So
We're gonna go down.
no, we're good.
What is their position?
We are south. You should be able to see us. Check your radar. We are in I-15. His back is to the wall.
You can hear me get really frustrated there because, like I said, we've been having this problem all the way since to now. I would have hoped that he would have figured it out, that he's not able to see the watchtower context, either because his map legend's off or he doesn't have radio. And at this point here, I mean, we need to have fixed now because this is a golden opportunity to go kill this guy right here. But it doesn't happen. So he has, Battleship has trouble acquiring the target. They don't know where we are. And I've exchanged full broadsides here. I assume because of the range that we start off the engagement, he already could see us. But like he said, I didn't factor in account that because he started moving slower than us, he couldn't see what was going on. And I probably should have reported that I was exchanging broadsides with this guy and that he's hurt. But that didn't happen there because I had to time it perfectly. If we had stayed in for this broadside just a few seconds longer, we'd be dead. So that's what happened there. And so at this point, we start disengaging. We can tell that we have their full attention because even when we're disengaging, they're shooting indirect fire orders at us. You can see the splashes that come off from the guns here. So they're still preoccupied with this right up until we get out of their visual range. So that's the amount of time that we have here for the friendly battleship to go in and engage. They are heavily damaged, preoccupied, and trying to shoot us, which is no longer a threat because we're shot to shit and we're out of here. But it doesn't happen. It does not happen, sadly. And there's a big reason why. It was around about this point, because I've watched side by side the videos from both ends, hearing the comms on their video from their perspective. It was the first time around about here that a Polish fella says something about BMATs. So I'm pretty sure it's around about here that Roxu finally realizes that he is almost out of BMATs and he cannot take the engagement. Because if he does, they're screwed. They don't have enough BMATs to fix all the holes in an engagement like this. So he takes the conservative route here and just follows my route out of here. He's just going to come in and screen my rear and we're going to leave. But as I said, he is set up for the perfect kill right here. If he only had the BMATs and if he had played it out the way that if all the ships under command were under 4th Naval, you would have attacked the enemy battleship, which he was set up for, on its opposite flank, which wasn't facing towards him, and he could have easily gotten 2 salvos off before receiving any return fire. And on his perspective, you can actually see them, they pass by the exact same angle as we did in this clip here. They get 1 salvo off from all their guns, and then that's it. Which is not enough to capitalize on the kind of damage that we were dishing out here. So that is what happened here regarding the main battle. This was our one-shot opportunity to get the kill. After this, there were no more opportunities at all. This was the one play that we had, and we blew it. So there's what happened there. But there were two more things that occur out of here that results in the loss of the battleship. So this one here is my mistake. So my mistake here is, as we are trying to cross, we are unable to cross because the queue is full. The hex that we're trying to get into here, Silicon, is full. Now, I thought, because I didn't read the message, I thought it was because we couldn't cross because we had the maximum amount of players on the ship, which was not the case. That wasn't the case. We didn't have maximum amount of players on the ship. It was that we couldn't get through the queue. This piece of important information I should have relayed to Roxu, but I didn't know it at the time because I was under the impression that it was the max occupancy of the ship, not the queue. I only found that out later. And by the time I found that out, Roxu had already attempted his crossing of the Silicon here, so he couldn't make it and he had to backtrack to the Tempest Islands border. So right here, technically, if I had been able to relay the information, if I had realized that that piece of information was like relevant, if I had known, basically, if I paid a little bit more attention, I could have relayed it to Roxu now, and he could have easily saved a full minute and a half of trying to jump into a hex where he had no hope in getting through. So this right here was a big misplay here. Yeah, that was bad. But after that, this is where the end of the 4th Naval's perspective runs. We hop across the border, damage control already has it all figured out. We're all good, we're going home. I've already told the fleet that we're disengaging. Throughout this battle, the gunboats get the confirmed kill on one of the submarines. So that's that. Having the gunboat support was really great. It was having that flexibility of have a small ship go around and actually help in keeping track of targets and dealing damage to submarines. That was really helpful. But yeah, from this here on point, you can watch and hear all the comms that were going off for this part of the operation. But we're out of here basically, and it seemed to me that the battleship was going to be fine because we reached the border. The enemy battleship Roxu that radioed in was running away. I mean, that's how I know we did a ton of damage because they were running away. They didn't want to fight with the battleship at this point in time. So they had withdrawn. The problem is with the crews again. Our battleship was not able to get all of its damage under control in the same time as the enemy were able to. Because the enemy was able to recover very quickly and then start pursuing our battleship at this point. So by the time we get down to end this here, they're already fully engaged and they're about to die. So that is what happened there. Yeah. Now, the story as it was told to me by the 3rd Marine fellows was that the randoms on their ship got into the guns and started firing, which canceled the travel move. Which is true. I've watched the vid. That's what happened. But what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to show footage side by side of the events as they happened, correlated at the same time, basically. And just to show what it is that I see, because I'm the operational commander at the end of the day, so I've got to analyze what went wrong for the rest of my ships here as well. So let me just play the clip here. Okay. So I'll post a link for this video here so you can watch it on your own time. But basically what I've done here is that here, okay. So basically this is my footage on the left here. This is the 3rd Marine loader on their perspective here. And this point here was very easy to find where we passed by their ship. So I ran both vids at the same time here just so I could get the time references right to see what happened. Because as everyone here already knows, I take my games a little bit too seriously because I'm a little bit too invested in things. It's just the way it is, I suppose. So I'm just trying to figure out like what happened here that went terribly wrong. So around this point here, if you went to the video and checked out the 38-minute mark, you can see the BMAT situation going on. And if you did watch this video, you could hear the randoms who are speaking English. They're already saying that there's a problem with the BMATs. There are none. But it was only after the first engagement, no, at the start of the first engagement with the battleship, the big one, that one of the Polish fellows says something about the BMAT situation. Now, I don't speak Polish, so he could have been saying something else, but he does say BMAT, so there's that. Let us see here. Okay, so it was round about here. Oh, is it not? Okay, that's a submarine that we were engaging. And I forgot to switch off my Discord, god damn it. Okay, so here is, okay, let me switch off my Discord, hang on. Okay. All right. So, wait, where was I? Okay, yeah. So here we were engaging the battleship. So let me just kill the volume because you're gonna hear almost 30 people talk simultaneously. So this is where I'm going into set engagement. And as far as I could tell, he was with me, which he was, but we're already moving forward, and he isn't. He takes time to start running his engines. So now it's about the time when they start moving forward. So there's a considerable distance that has been put between us, and he loses visual contact on the battleship here. So moving on. Just jump ahead. So judging by the speeds and from where the battleship was when we started engaging, he's probably about a good 300 meters away, so he has yet to acquire the visual. It will only be about 10 seconds from now that he would reacquire the visual. That's when the guns start firing, I believe. Yeah, so we're bailing out here. Here's the indirect fire. So they're still focused on us. That means the main spotter is still looking at us, trying to get the fire coordinates in. So around this point, I'm pretty sure, yep, the guns start turning. They should get visual contact back on them. So, and they're still firing at us. So this is the golden opportunity right here to get the kill in on the battleship. But does not get, we don't take it. So that was the gunboat screen that we saw at the back end of the Warden battleship on my screen there. They got the kill on that. And it's around about here, they get a salvo off. You can actually see them on their screen here as the enemy battleship comes into range. Yeah, there's the fire going off. Got shots off. There's the shadow of the enemy battleship. We get one broadside off, and then that's it. That's the end of the fight there. That was the one opportunity we had, was to get in on the other side if possible. But even getting in on here on this side, it didn't look like they were getting that much return fire, because I've said they were focusing on us here. Taking the broadside on, even if it was the worst side position to take the broadsides on, far better than what happened after that. We can see what happens after here. So this is after we had crossed out. They weren't able to cross into Silicon because of the queue. Now you can watch the video for yourself of the Submarine Division. So they managed to get to the Tempest Island border at around, what was it? The 48-minute and 35-second marker. And then they lose the ship with all hands at 51 minutes and 19 seconds. Now here was the real big thing that I saw from their perspective, was that one, the priority should have been just to leave, because we're out of action. I've already made that very clear to Roxu that we are heavily damaged. We're out of here. We had already done a ton of damage to the Callahan, so if they can't get the kill here, then we're never going to get the kill here. And we already agreed on the comms at least twice that we need to withdraw. This fight's over. So he gets to the border at 48:35. However, his priority is not to cross. And by that, what I mean by that is that from the orders that he's shouting out here to his crew, he's not too concerned with crossing. Otherwise, it would have been very easy to have like gotten away without getting destroyed. Now I can tell you this because I've gone and watched the perspective of the Wardens. Now, granted, it wasn't the full story, but there are several points that I can raise here that goes on to the theory that I'm putting forward here. Is that the Warden battleship was not moving and it was not at the border. Most of the firing that's going on here is indirect. So they're standing off at standoff range, firing indirect fire. Now, indirect fire is pretty deadly, but it's also pretty inaccurate as well. You can't get all the kind of accuracy hits that you would get from direct fire. So they're off at range here. They're not being pursued. And there was the other thing. Considering the orientation of the Warden battleship, they were not interested in pursuing them. They were broadside on, trying to get as many shots off. They were not trying to maneuver to the border. In fact, they were in such a position that it would have taken quite some time for them to maneuver the ship around to get to the border in order to cross. At 48-minute, 35-second marker, our friendly battleship is ready at the border and ready to cross. All that needed to be done was just cease firing, cross, take the hits for the next 60 seconds, and we'd be done. Now, taking the hits for those 60 seconds is, for some people, especially the inexperienced folks, probably think that's suicide, but it's not. And you can see because from this point on, as they decide to engage point blank with the enemy battleship, the indirect fire damage dealt compared to direct fire is incomparable. I mean, they would have been fine. A total of 2 minutes and 44 seconds was the engagement from when they hit the border here and then when they start maneuvering forward. So the problem here was these Somme fellas, two of them actually, that come in. Actually, this guy, after he's told to stop firing, actually does stop firing and hops out of the gun. And then when the second guy comes in, he obviously hadn't heard that conversation that was going on earlier, but Roxu overrides it, and he makes the decision because this guy says that we have to fight, which was incorrect. So for the 4th Naval guys that are looking to command stuff, I've been teaching people, when you're in command, you cannot be pressured by people to do things, right? You're the leader, you have to make a decision, you have to be decisive. Always trust your instincts, trust your guts, trust your instincts, and go with what you think is right. Don't get pressured by people, and most definitely should never get pressured by randoms, right? This guy here is not part of the operation. He's not part of 3rd Marines. He's not part of wasn't there with the pre-planning or whatever. He just hopped on halfway and got on the guns. At least that's the way it looked like to me. I wasn't informed that they were supposed to be in part of it, but it doesn't look like that as far as I could tell. He says that we have to stay to fight, otherwise we die. That is bullshit. You had plenty of time to get away. The indirect fire wasn't actually hurting you as much as you think it was. Definitely most of the 4th Naval would be able to agree with that, especially after reviewing the footage here most of the officers had. You are not actually in any real danger at this point. Now remember, you already are low on BMATs, you have to withdraw. That was one of the main reasons why we couldn't really take that fight at the beginning there. So there's that. Yeah. Remember, it takes 60 seconds to cross. The enemy battleship is not in a position to cross. They're not in a position to pursue you either. If you had been able to get across here, even if there was a slight hiccup, right? If it took like an extra 60 seconds, you would have been able to make it. And if they had tried to pursue you, they'd have to turn the ship around, get to the border, then take another 60 seconds to cross. And by the time they did that, if you were all engines reversed and had just backed off all the way back from Tempest to Fingers, no way they would have been able to catch you. Would have been able to have gotten out. And at that point, I would have been able to regroup with you in Tempest, considering the position of my destroyer at this point in time. So yeah. I think that is all the major points I wanted to cover for that. Yeah. Now, just make sure everyone understands I wasn't in command of the battleship. I wasn't there. I can only tell you what I see, what I've heard, what was told to me, and what I've watched and observed here. I have the... Yeah, there's a screenshot from the BMAT situation. These are the other 2 reference points from the Wardens and the gunner, the lead gunner on our friendly battleship here. So the clips of the battleship fight here, where you can see what I was talking about, the orientation of the enemy battleship and the situation, the tactical situation. So yeah, that's the after action report for this operation here. The battleship was lost with all hands. I've got all the combat footage edited and posted. I'll put the links into that in the description here. And I'll also put the raw footage as well, because why not? So yeah,